Hi everybody, welcome back to another video, and I am on my way to the BYU Utah game right now, and we'll be talking about that right after this. Everybody, welcome back to Just Justin. I am Justin, and yes, I'm currently walking to Lavell Edwards Stadium right up there, so you guys can see that. And we're going to be talking about the BYU Utah game that happened today, October the 18th of 2025. All right, hey everybody, I'm at home right now, and that was a great game last night at Lavell Edwards Stadium. I was going to do this when I got home, but I was tired, and I just went to bed. So, it was a long day for me, big noon kickoff in the morning, went all day, BYU football game at night, couldn't ask for anything more. So let's go ahead. I'm first going to show you some of the stuff from the game, and then we'll come in and we'll talk about my thoughts and stuff like that. All right, so let's jump over to the game footage right here. See that right there? They have to saran wrap this due to Utah fans coming down here and vandalizing it. I mean, come on. What type of sportsmanship is that? Yeah, very classy Utah fans. BYU always has to saran wrap their everything just so they don't come down and vandalize it with red paint. All right, so here is outside the stadium. This is a 1 hour before kickoff, and it's dead because everyone's in the stadium. What the heck? I know. I thought I would come early to beat the crowds, but traffic was not bad, nothing. Everyone was inside the stadium. I mean, they were already tearing down Sports Nation outside of LES Stadium right there. So, yeah, so inside it was packed. And there was not a single seat anywhere. Now, the upcoming clip you'll see and hear, my mic drowned out kind of everything. And so y'all just have to listen. All right, so it was a lot louder than my microphone portrayed it to, and so it was fun. Here's the coin toss. They're being hostile to each other. Not hostile, they're being nice to each other. There's a Go Cougs flag there on the east side of Lavell Edwards Stadium. And this was in the south end zone here. This is where the student section is at. So yeah, they have the 3 different flags there. And this is just a view of our seats there at Lavell Edwards Stadium for this BYU Holy War. Now, halftime. This is the University of Utah's marching band. I know, kind of odd, right? That marching band would be here for University of Utah entertaining at halftime. Well, there's a reason behind that. Here's BYU's marching band. They did come out and perform. So, yeah. But Utah was there because they did a combined band for a patriotic United States moment there. So it was kind of cool. Here it is coming out, second half starting up. BYU's out, Utah's out, Here we go. BYU, Utah. Utah's on offense. Yeah, it's going to be a good game. Between third and fourth quarter, here is what it's like. Yep, that was a transition between the third and the fourth quarters. Cosmo was up on the scoreboard. Don't worry, he was safety harnessed in. Now this is just video of the game right when BYU scored a touchdown and someone hit my phone out of my hand. Yeah. And so, yep, this is the students running onto the field afterwards. Let's take a listen to what the heck's going on. So yeah, BYU pulled that out. I'm not sure why they didn't kick the field goal. I didn't know why they did kick the field goal instead of trying to go for it, fade in the end zone. Why? I mean, come on. That 3 points would have put us up by 2 scores. And then that onside kick was lucky that it hit the Utah player before it rolled over to BYU's side. Because there was no one covering that dang ball. I don't know, man. But yeah, that was a good game. Whew. All right, so let's talk about a few things before I walk out of the stadium here. So BYU and Utah. Utah led us in everything. Yards, rushing, passing. They led us in everything. But the score matters.
And so, there's so many mistakes in that game. The defense couldn't do anything against a short pass. We'll have to talk in a bit.
So yeah, that was some of the game footage. I didn't put all the game footage in there yet, but that is some of the things that I took last night when I was there. I wanted to do more, but I was involved in the game, So maybe I should get better at being more on a journalist side and not pay attention to this great game. I'll have to think about that. But here are my thoughts. Let me grab my phone here really quick. Okay. All right. So let's break down the stats. First of all, let's break down the stats before we get to anything else. University of Utah, 73 plays. BYU, 66. Yards. Utes, 470 yards. Cougars, 368. Yards per play, 6.4, 5.6. Passing yards, 244 to BYU's 165, or 166, I should say. Rushing yards, 226 to BYU's 202. First downs, 24 for the Utes, 22 for the Cougars. Fumbles lost, 1 on the Utes, 0 on the Cougars. 1 interception on the Utes, 0 for the Cougars. Penalties were 12 for Utah, 5 for BYU. Yards were 77 for Utah and 42 for the Cougars. Utah had the ball for 28 minutes and 53 seconds, and BYU had it for 31 minutes and 7 seconds. Okay, so if you're just looking at the stats right now, you're thinking, holy crap, the Utes beat the Cougars. They stopped the Cougars in every category possible, except for the turnovers and the time of possession. Oh, and penalties, yes. So you're thinking, oh yeah, the Utes were doing so good. They were busting up the Cougars just like the Utes should be because they are the number one team in the universe. Well, not necessarily, okay? So let's break this down, okay? First quarter, 0-0. It was a tough battle between these two teams. So between the number 15 team in the country, the Cougars, and the number 23 team in the country, the Utes, first quarter was 0-0. I mean, it was a battle, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. It was a battle between these two. All right, so second quarter, BYU goes on top, 7. Scores a great touchdown. All right, then Utah come back and scores a touchdown. Then BYU goes down and they kick a field goal. Up 10-7 going into the second half. All right, so yeah, BYU has that rare lead of 10-7. But that lasted the whole entire third quarter because no team scored in the third quarter. Only the second quarter and the fourth quarter is when the scores happened. Okay, so Utah scored 14 points. Putting them at 21. BYU scored 14 points, putting them at 24. So yeah, right there, BYU won 24-14. Okay, it was a struggle. I mean, it was an exciting and intense game that you could ever go to. I mean, this rivalry, the Utes from Utah, BYU, the Holy War. I don't know why you call it the Holy War. There's a lot of history with the Utes and the holiness, but we're not going to get into that, okay? So, we are going to talk about Bear Brockmeyer. Yes, a true freshman. I'm sure you people at home heard that. I know I didn't hear that because I was at the game. But let's go over some stats here, okay? I'm just going to pull up my chart here. Sorry, I'm on my phone. Okay, Okay, so Bear. He was 13, 40, 22, 166 yards, 7.6 yard average, and 1 touchdown. And then running was LJ Martin, 26 for 122 yards, 4.7 yard average. His long was 17. Then, of course, we got Bear. 11 carries, 64 yards, 5.8 average, 1 touchdown. Long was 22. Now that 1 touchdown right there that Bear did was 22 yards. The last 5 yards, he had 3 Utes on him, and he was just going for that end zone. He was determined to get in the end zone. Of course, the push happened there. The center came in and helped Bear into the end zone. But that was the touchdown right there that made BYU 24. And Utah 14. So, yeah, that was really super good on BYU's part. But let's talk about Utah. Okay, Dampier. He was 20 for 36, 244 yards, 6.8 average, and 2 touchdowns and 1 interception. Running, Bray had 10 carries for 121 yards. Dampier had 15 carries for 64 yards. Okay, so they were rushing the ball like no problem. They were throwing the ball too. That's what really irritates me about BYU, okay, is that they play off the receivers. Sometimes they're up closer, but they're giving them like a 10-yard padding. And that really hurt them because Utah did a lot of slants. That's how they scored the touchdown. That's how they scored touchdowns. I mean, one was a big long running play because BYU can't tackle, but I'll explain that here in a minute. But it is just frustrating watching BYU because Utah bounces out, can't tackle, runs for a touchdown. And the other 2 touchdowns were simple passes. Okay? Slant over the middle, wide open. Another one fade over the middle, wide open. I don't know where the coverage is at or anything like that. And that was what was really irritating. All right, so yeah, BYU comes out the victory. So BYU comes out the victor in this game. It was a hard-fought, down in the trenches victory for BYU. Now, I thought BYU was sure going to lose after I was watching that first quarter because they were not organized. They didn't know what the heck they were doing. Okay? Half the time, Utah's receivers were wide open until the last second, and they moved over and they were like 10 yards off. What the heck? And then BYU's poor time management skills. The end of the first half, when BYU scored that 3 points. They could have had a touchdown, but they don't know how to manage the time under 2 minutes. They're taking their time. They're like, what the heck do we do? Do we do huddle? Just get to the ball. Do 2-minute drills. Work on the dang 2-minute drills. Okay? Get up there. No plan. Just have a bunch of plays. All right, man. This is a 2-minute drill, and this is what we're doing, baby. Okay? This is what we're doing. Get that engaged, drained into their heads that they need to do this. And I think it'll be a lot better. Oh, and then defense. Tackle the dang player. Stop trying to grab their shoes. All right? They're not classy shoes. Take them and put them on the ground. Not violently, not personal foul-wise, but just tackle them and put them on the ground. All right? So, yeah, that pretty much sums up the game. But, yeah, Utah had us beat. Now, if Utah went out and kicked some field goals, okay, let's take a look at this. I didn't finish all the stats, so I apologize. Yeah, I did. Well, third down efficiency, 5 for 12, and BYU was 3 for 12. But Utah was 1 for, I do believe, 5 fourth downs. Now, they could have taken those fourth down plays and kicked a field goal, and that would have been the game right there. But they went for it, and they only got it once. And that once was by inches. So, yeah, BYU could have lost to Utah based on field goals. But they didn't. Oh, and coming down to it, in the fourth quarter, BYU had the ball. And they were going down, and instead of taking and kicking for 3 points to make it a 27-14 game, that would have forced Utah to score 2 touchdowns. They went for it on 4th and 5, and they failed miserably. I mean, come on. Just take the dang points. Because Utah got the ball back and marched right down the field and scored a touchdown, putting it at 21. Then they did the onside kick, which they recovered. But unfortunately, one of the Utah players kicked it before it reached the 10 yards, and so that's how they recovered it. So that's how the game ended. But please, BYU, practice tackling and practice the 2-minute drill, because you're going into Iowa State next week, into Ames. It's not going to be easy. You got Utah, Ames, and Texas Tech. We have a bye week between Iowa State and Texas Tech, but those 2 games are on the road. All right? So BYU, settle down, do 2-minute drills, and tackle. Learn how to tackle. But that was an awesome game last night. The atmosphere was just out of control. I mean, we got there about an hour early, and the stadium was already full. I mean, people were there. I mean, they were there. I mean, we had no problem walking in or anything like that. And I was thinking, dang, I want to go now early just to get, yeah, it was already packed and the vibe was already strong. Whew. But yeah, that is my review on BYU Utah, the Holy War. BYU wins 3 in a row, and it was a good game. It was loud, and it was a good game. So next week we'll be in Ames, and that'll be taking on Iowa State. All right, so BYU now sits up at the top of the Big 12 because Texas Tech lost yesterday to Arizona State. So BYU is the top dog. I don't know if I want to be the top dog because everyone's clawing at you, but it is what it is, right? So if you guys like this video, give it a thumbs up, hit subscribe and that bell notification, and you'll be notified when I put up another video. And that might not be BYU football related, because this is a no niche channel here on Just Justin. Sorry, my phone's going off like crazy. And I talk about cooking, talk about carnivore diet, I have some random thoughts, and I talk about BYU football. All right, so come back, enjoy another video, and until the next one, you guys, I will see you later. Bye. Go Cougs. All right, thanks for watching, guys. BYU football and other videos here on Just Justin. Subscribe and watch that other video.